Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the first Group A of the FIFA World Cup 26, a global showdown, brought to you by us guys here at Hooligan Soccer, with myself, Gary Stryker, and of course, my co-pilot here, the Hooligan. Hooligan, here we are, World Cup preamble, breaking down the groups.
It's all getting very real, Gary. Very real.
It's all getting real. It's now April when we record this. We now know who's in the final groups, as that's all been finalized and sort of set in stone. Well, there's possibly one possible country, but we can get into that a little bit later. We'll see about that. But the idea here is, in the run-up to the World Cup, which is now, at the time of recording, 65 days away, looking to essentially break down each of the groups, players to look out for, any interesting statistics, anything along the lines, and just give you guys a build-up and get excited for the World Cup. And of course, as the World Cup comes, we will be doing daily shows talking about the matches, the stats, the goals, the bangers, the off-field antics as well, and anything else that we think is relevant and exciting, with a bunch of guests along the way. So come on the journey with us. Please share it with all your friends. Like, follow, subscribe. And of course, you can always find out more at hooligan-soccer.com, finding out where all the insights and creators writing their opinions, thoughts, and content from there. So, Hooligan, here we are at the beginning of this long and winding road up this mountain that we're going to go all the way through until the middle of July. So let's start with Group A.
Group A.
Would you like to kick us off?
Start at the beginning.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Group A, Mexico, right? They're the co-host. So you can call it Mexico's group. Would not be inaccurate. And you've got your four teams. You got your four teams in there: Mexico, South Korea, South Africa, and then the latest to join the party after winning the UEFA play-in. I think it was D. Was it play-in D? Path D?
It was play-in D. Pathway D.
Is Czechia, formerly known as the Czech Republic, and many, many eons ago, part of the dual nation of Czechoslovakia. But that aside, and the fact that they keep changing their name does not change the fact that that is going to be your group. And it is, I will say, a rather intriguing assortment of countries in this particular group. As co-hosts, Mexico is got to be the favorite, right? They'll be playing at home in Mexico. I believe not every game is going to be at the Estadio Banorte, and the formerly known as Estadio Azteca, sometimes just known as one of the worst places in the world to play a competitive football match. Just the crowds are brutal. The facilities are old. They're getting updated, but still, yeah. It's a hard place to play, Mexico, I'll tell you. The fans tend to be a little riotous. I don't know if this has changed with the redesign, but if you were an away fan, you were essentially imprisoned in that stadium. You had to be there before you were set in, and you were not allowed to leave until all the other fans had dispersed. And you were sitting inside a cage. So yeah, it's tough. It's a tough place to watch a match. But since the spectators won't be on the field, doesn't really matter all that much, right? The big question comes in is will Mexico advance? Who's going to be the two to get out of it? I've got my theory, but Gary, I'm very curious to hear yours.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. So Mexico hosting, this is the first time they're actually hosting a World Cup match since they hosted the World Cup in 1986 all by themselves, obviously being part of the Mexico, Canada, US alliance here as well. Mexico have their opening game against South Africa, which interestingly
is the inaugural game.
It's the inaugural game as well, which is interesting. It's a repeat of the inaugural game of the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, when South Africa hosted as well. So there's a bit of repetition or sort of rhyming in that way that's going on there as well. Interesting sort of statistics I've noticed, and I've just pulled about Mexico, is that Mexico have appeared in every single World Cup since 1994, and they've made the round of 16, and they've got out of the group every single time, but never gone any further and got knocked out in the round of 16. So
That
if you
is
are
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are if you are looking at the money lines of the betting and looking to get out of this, Mexico do have that history of getting out of the groups. And of course, as you mentioned, being one of the host nations and having that home support as well, generally lends itself quite well to sort of being a sort of a bit of a tailwind and sort of, giving that home support. Of course, if it doesn't go well quickly, that tailwind turns into a headwind. So definitely want to watch out for those guys for sure. I think they should be getting out of there.
Yeah, I think the big question is whether the what they refer to as the cuarto partido, right? The quarter final curse. Will that happen again this year? I think it's too early for us to tell. I mean, they haven't even really finalized the roster yet for Mexico, although the friendlies that they just played will give us a good indication as to, I think, where they will be heading. Yes, for them to, I think it is a near certainty that they will advance out of this group. I do not see, barring a major catastrophe, I don't see that happening. Will they be the number one or the number two? I don't know. That's a great question. There are some. This is a tricky set of teams. They'll beat South Africa in the opener. I don't think that'll be a problem. In fact, I'd say that of all the four teams, South Africa is the one that is they're the one that a lot of people are saying they're going to be the first team to be eliminated because they have the earliest games. There's something to be said for that. If they drop Mexico, then it really comes down to their next game, which I believe is against Czechia, right? So yeah, that's, then, and because not only that, they have to travel because they go from Mexico. Then their second game is in Atlanta, Georgia. So then they're going to have to travel, time zones, all of that.
Weather. Yeah.
Not weather, because Atlanta is an enclosed stadium. So weather is not a factor. Please,
this is true.
Let
Yes.
us appreciate the fact that it's not as you obsess about the weather, and yet it rarely seems to have, I mean, it has an impact, but it should not, if the stadium is enclosed. The good news, here's the thing. Czechia is also traveling because they play in Guadalajara, but it's a slightly shorter journey, but still. The fact remains, South Africa, yeah, you're cooked. I don't think you got a chance. South Korea, you can't look at the friendlies that they just had and say that that's truly representative of what South Korean soccer is all about, because Heung-min Son wasn't there. He didn't play this international break. So the fact that they lost, and by the way, they lost bad. They got destroyed by Ivory Coast, 4-0. And so you can't really look at that as being truly representative of what they're going to do. Neither can you. Their loss to Austria, their 1-0 loss to Austria, it doesn't say very much about them either. Because with Son on the team, they're just different, right? It'd be like saying Argentina without Messi. They can certainly play, and they're going to be talented without their talisman, but it's not going to be the same team. They just play different with him there. So, yeah, I think South Korea is strong. I do think Czechia is a strange dark horse.
Yeah.
One of our correspondents said, "Oh, it's a great poll because they're not very strong. They're not high ranking." They were more concerned about Denmark making it. Denmark, of course, having a very long established history in going into tournaments as an underdog and overperforming. That's something that Denmark always seems to do. Ever since the infamous 1992 Euros, where they were literally on a beach. The whole team was on a beach on vacation, and they got a call. And then 2 days later ended up winning the Euros after Yugoslavia was kicked out of the tournament. So yeah, but I don't think you can look at Czechia and say, oh yeah, this will be easy. This is a stubborn, physical, gritty team that already ran through the gauntlet, drawing twice in their UEFA playoff and winning in penalty kicks. Now, the good news about a group stage is that they don't do extra time. They don't do PKs. It just, if it's you tie, you're done. But what happens if Czech Republic ties all their games? I mean,
Mhm.
I'm looking at this fixture and going, it could come down to those, how many yellow cards did you get? Right?
Yes.
Everything becomes in play in this one. There's a very good possibility that Czech Republic draws to beat South Africa.
Yeah.
There's also a very good possibility that that happens to all the other teams too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you look at these things, you go, which are the games that are really going to matter? South Korea, Mexico. That's the one that really matters, right? That one, the winner of that game will likely win the group, right? The rest could all essentially be draws. I think it's going to be perhaps the most chess-like of all the groups, you know.
Yes.
But then again, it's the first one I'm talking about, so I'm always going to say that.
It is. What I always find as well in World Cups as well is the first round of games are always the most tense and everyone's sort of a bit unsure and a bit nervous. And you're going to see quite a few draws in the first round of games. And then as the second and third games come along, all of a sudden it opens up a little bit as well and sort of it goes from there. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to, I think you're going to see some nerves by Mexico, but I think Mexico's going to come out and they're going to be really aggressive against South Africa. They have to be. They don't have a choice. They can't sit back. You don't let the South Africans dictate the pace. Okay? You just don't.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree with you that I think that South Africa probably have the least chance of getting out of this group as well. I agree. Mexico should be nailed on favorites to actually sort of go and dominate. Really, two wins should come to. They should be able to get one against South Africa.
I think
then
two
should be
wins
able
and
to
they're
put
in.
two wins,
Clearly,
yeah.
yes.
Normally 4 points should be enough to get you out of a group because they just play each other once as well. So again, if they've got a win against South Africa, they should be the group's whipping boys, and then essentially you'll be able to just go and pick up a draw, or if you can squeeze a win out against Czechia or South Korea, then you should be able to get through. But yeah, so I agree. I think who goes through in that other sort of qualification, South Korea against Czech Republic or Czechia, should I say?
That's the second game that matters.
That's the other game that matters. Correct. That's good. Yeah. And then just while we're here, are there any sort of from your side, any key players that you think would be interested for anyone sort of looking at sort of building a fantasy team as well? Son for South Korea,
Son
absolutely.
is he's probably one of the best players at the tournament. Had a bit of a slow start in MLS, but last week opened up a can of utter whoop ass on Orlando, getting 4 assists in one game, which is crazy. So yeah, I think he's really, really critical. I don't have any South Africans on my radar right now. Interestingly, quite a few South Africans play for South African clubs. I was surprised when I went in and I went in and studied the current roster. Knowing that it can change, right? I mean, that's the thing. FIFA does not force anybody to. They have to submit their final rosters by the country are due on the 30th of May. So, I mean, that's a long time away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players on the current roster are from my favorite team, Mamelodi Sundowns. Love those guys. And you've got 2, 4, 6 players from their rival, the Orlando Pirates. So yeah, I mean, that's 12 out of their 24 players play inside South Africa. Now, maybe that's just because this was a friendly and they didn't want to, pull people. But yeah, it's that's an interest. I found that to be a really, sort of curious thing. But nobody's really standing out. From that group.
Yeah,
their coach is Belgian, right? So their coach is a Belgian. And no,
I've got
actually,
the
only one that I would say from South Africa that could be Worth sort of paying attention to is Lyle Foster out of
Only
Burnley.
striker from he's
Yeah,
probably the sort of, in terms of sort of like level, he's probably the highest level playing in the Premier League as well. He's a 25-year-old striker, Lyle Foster, although
that's
Burnley
correct. Yeah.
have been absolutely terrible this season as well. So he's probably
Oh,
their best player, which indicates
sure, but
sort of, where South Africa will probably stand. So yeah. And then in terms of any other young players, also obviously there's Son definitely as well. On the Mexicans, I mean, the Mexicos are obviously probably putting a lot of their hopes on Raul Jimenez as well. He's probably their 35-year-old striker talisman. I'm sure there's probably a few others that you're familiar
yeah,
of.
no, they don't really know. Curiously, the way Mexico plays, they usually play with a lone striker up front. Sometimes they'll do a two strikers, but they're carrying quite a few forwards right now.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to see whether this continues to be the trend moving forward. Yes, Jimenez, it will be your main guy. This is likely his last World Cup.
Yes.
He is super important. There was some talk and chat about whether Chucky was going to come back, right? I don't think he will. He's not. I mean, while he is still technically a player for San Diego, he has not been rostered once this year. So I think he's gone. This Armando Gonzalez guy, he is a young player to watch.
22-year-old from
Chivas.
Guadalajara.
That's right. He's a Chivas striker. I mean, he's being rumored to make a move to Europe in the summertime. This World Cup, whenever he gets onto the field, he will be making a statement to say, sign me, sign me, sign me. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's worth saying, these World Cup, particularly these young players, there's always these breakout stars, and it's always fascinating. And this is why I'd love to sort of focus on sort of some of these young guys, because there are, if we remember the last World Cup, it was Enzo Fernandez. He was at Benfica, the young Argentine, got young player of the tournament, and then Chelsea came in and obviously dropped a couple of $100 million plus on him to try and sign him. So there is going to be one of these breakout stars, which will be interesting to see. I think for Mexico,
the other one,
if I can.
Yeah, go for it.
If I can, the one I've also sort of gets come up on my radar is there's a young 17-year-old midfielder from Mexico called Gilberto Mora. Is that the one you were going to go with? Yeah, he looks very interesting. He plays for Club Tijuana, and I think, doesn't he have a record in like the CONCACAF Gold Cup or something like that? He's the youngest ever player to appear and score or something like that. And maybe
yes, he scored in the final in 2025 when he was 16, being the youngest player to score there. He's the son of a professional footballer and a coach at Tijuana. And the reason that he is still at Tijuana is that he can't move until he's 18. European club rules. He's not doesn't hold a European passport. So therefore European club rules means that he cannot legally sign for a club until he's 18 years old. It's literally just a matter of time before somebody comes around and picks him up.
Well, if you're Club Tijuana, you hold on to him through the World Cup and hope he performs well and gets noticed, and then obviously increases his value. And the big
although he is injured, so he's nursing a groin injury right now. He might have the there is an injury that tends to affect a lot of the younger players. Oh, I can't remember what it's called, but it's essentially known as a sports hernia. Right. Mm-hmm. Which means that the growing that they're doing, the muscles get a little out of whack and the alignment goes, and it's just painful to walk, painful to do pretty much anything. Let's hope that he's there, because if he is fit, he will play. I think he's too much of an up and comer for the Mexican coach, Aguirre to ignore that.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. So let's move on from talking about a 17-year-old's groin, and let's maybe go to the Czechian squad or Czechian players that jump out. What strikes me about this cohort of players is the average age seems to be quite on the high side, and there's not too many young players that have come up on my radar. I think they're probably their most prominent player, I would say, is Patrick Schick, who plays as a striker for Bayer Leverkusen. He is 30 years old. He does obviously sort of get on the score sheet quite well, but there's no other young players that seem to be jumping out at me. There's Thomas Souček, who plays for West Ham. Again, not a young player. Yeah. He's 31.
Not young.
He's definitely not young. There's Adam Karabek, who plays for Olympic Lyonnais. He's a 6'1" midfielder. But aside from that, yeah, I think
No, the Czechia is not a team that will feature any youth. They will go for experience and grit, not youth. 100% every time. So it's nothing to watch there.
So if you're betting fantasy, there's some players to watch out for as well. If you're betting the money lines and thinking about it in that way, we think, Mexico should be nailed on, probably qualifying first, definitely second if not. And then I think the expectation is, for me, my gut probably tells me that South Korea will probably have enough sort of like skill and guile to be able to get through and get enough points. It may come down to goal difference as well, but yeah, definitely it will be very, very exciting to see how this group shapes up. Okay, well, that's the end of Group A. Please follow, like, subscribe, and join us for Group B as we take you on this journey. Thank you.
Peace.